What's up, guys? All right, guys, so the first thing I want to say for today's metal casting video is don't give up. Because when you don't give up and you keep going, you might succeed, okay? So this is something I made 2 years ago. And 2 years ago, it took me 3 times before I got it right. So today, somebody asked me to make another one, so I'm going to do that. And it took me more than 3 times to make it. So after the third time, I was ready to give up. I was ready to give up, but I asked some friends in the metal casting community, and they recommended a few things to me to change, and it worked. So again, this is going to be the Chicago bean. If you guys aren't familiar with it, I wasn't, still never seen it. It's a large bean in Chicago. This is a small bean that is not in Chicago. But I cast it, it looked pretty good until I saw the bottom. It has shrinkage. So I cast it again. Same thing, the top was a little rough. I could sand it down, clean it up, but the bottom had some shrinkage. Third time, somewhere here we go. I don't know which one I just showed you guys, but look at this. All three of these are no good. No good. So the fourth one here, guys, is right here. And I've already polished it up. It's all cleaned up. And it has a very small amount of shrinkage. I think it's right here that you really can't even tell. It's not a big deal. So this is the winner, guys, the fourth time. So let me stop yapping for this intro, guys. Let's get to the video. I'm gonna show you a sand casting. Yeah, let's get to the video. I don't even know what I'm saying. In today's video, I'm going to melt down the aluminum using the 2-auto 3 kg electric furnace. If you would like one and want to support the channel, I do have an affiliate link in the description below. So I'm going to add the aluminum to the furnace, and while that's melting down, I'm going to make the sand mold and then add some more. I didn't film the footage for making the sand mold, but I did include a footage from my previous video of making the mold. I started out using a piece of foam for the base that I burned a depression into it with a torch for the 3D model to rest on. Then I placed the bottom of the casting flask over the pattern and started to make the mold. I filled this half of the mold with casting sand, pressing down gently over the pattern so I didn't damage it. Fill this all the way to the top and level it off. Once level, flip over this half of the box so we can start on the other half. Because of the large depression in the foam, I have to now scrape away a lot of the extra sand surrounding the pattern. Brush away any of the loose sand so you have a clean surface. Now I'm going to cut in the runners and the gate and the location of where I'm going to be putting the sprue. This will be where the molten metal will flow into the pattern. Remove the loose sand and add the top of the box. Before adding sand, make sure to add parting powder so both halves of the box do not stick together when removed. Fill the box with sand all the way to the top, ramming it down and leveling it off. Separate the mold box and inspect the impression the pattern made into the sand. Gently tap on the pattern and then flip over the box to remove it. Now with the top of the mold box, I'm going to scrape away the runners and the gate. Remove the loose sand in any means necessary. I used a small screwdriver to poke 2 little holes to try and help any of the gases escape from the mold. I then used a piece of copper pipe to press down through the sand to create a sprue. The sprue is the area where the molten metal will flow into the mold. I'll then carve out a larger opening on the top of the mold box. When finished, close the mold box and it is now ready. So I not only have one sand mold, I have 2 sand molds. So I made the one and I'm like, you know what, I better make 2 because I know last time I did this, I had a complete failure. So I made 2. So I'm going to check on the furnace to see if the aluminum started to melt, and it did, and it gives me room to add more. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drop in some leftover castings from before, a sprue, a vent, whatever I have left over that will fit inside the crucible. And now that the crucible is molten, I am ready to make my first pour. So I knew I wasn't going to have enough aluminum for my second pour, so I'm adding more aluminum now to the crucible. This piece here is a cutoff that I have that I used cast aluminum from. It was a 400 transmission pan. Now these are cutoffs from the back plates of an electric motor. This is the electric motor here. The front and the back plates are made of aluminum. I don't know if it's cast aluminum. I don't really know how they make these plates, but I'm going to go for it. So I'm just going to drop these into the crucible and try to fit them in the best possible way I can. Sometimes it just needs a little push. We are molten and ready to pour the second sand mold that I have here. So it's been about 15 minutes and these sand molds are both ready to open up and see how they came out. And at first I looked at it and I'm like, yes, it was a solid pour. This was great. I can't wait to see what it looks like. And of course I finally get it out and I had aluminum shrinkage. Real nice. So I kind of expected that, but I was hoping it didn't happen. So of course, better luck on the second one. So here's a close-up of the shrinkage that I had from this aluminum. So this is now another piece of aluminum I have to throw into my crucible later and remelt because this is no good. So again, now I'm going to be opening up my second sand casting mold. And of course, it looks good from the bottom because that's the bottom and that's not the top where you get shrinkage. You only get shrinkage on the top of a sand mold. So let's remove it, flip it over, and see, oh, look at that. I got more shrinkage. And this time it looked like it wasn't just shrinkage, it looked like maybe the metal was too hot. It looks very weird. So here are the two beans that I just cast. And again, they both look pretty good from the top, but the bottoms just are not good. I mean, they could pass for the bean, but I'm not happy with them, and I know the person I made them for is not going to be happy. So I have to try again a third time. But I'm also realizing I did something different in those two sand molds than I did in the first one, and the first one I showed you in the beginning of this. I didn't poke holes in the top for the gases to vent out with the screwdriver. So that's what I'm going to do on this one. And obviously I'm hoping it works, but if you saw the beginning of the video, you know it didn't work. So this time I'm actually going to set it to 849 degrees Celsius because again, I thought that maybe I got the metal too hot. So I'm going to add more aluminum to the furnace and I'm going to bring it just above melting temperature and maybe that will work. Here's a glimpse of the sand mold I'm going to be using for my third pour. This one has the poked holes in the bottom of this bean, just like I showed you in the old video. So we're going to check on the metal and this one is ready to pour. So let's go for my third try. Well, I was worried for a second there that I didn't have enough aluminum, but it does look like I had just enough to make it to the top. So I was sure enough it was fine for the bean. So because of the bad luck I was having with the bean, I figured why not make some coins because my furnace is hot. So I made up some sand casts for this double-sided coin that I have here. And now is the time to open up my casting box for my third Chicago bean. And let's see how that one came out. And this one looks really good on the top. This one has a nice shine to it, nice smooth sand casted surface. So I was really hopeful that the third time worked. But doing this voiceover, I know it did not work. So weirdly enough, it is actually probably the worst one of all with those two screwdriver vent spots that I made. And again, it doesn't make sense because it worked the last time I did it. But while doing this voiceover and looking at my old video, I actually had a much larger sprue. So maybe that's why it worked? Again, I don't really know. So now let's open up those small coin sand molds that I have here in these small casting flasks. And these I'm pretty sure came out because these almost every time come out very good. So this next one, you're going to see something on the bottom of the YouTube play button. And that's where I had some sand break away in the mold. I actually like the way that looked, so I'm actually going to make 4 more coins using this one as the pattern. Here is my 4th and final pattern for this. It was recommended to me to open up the gates and have higher risers on those gates by another metal caster. I will leave a link to his YouTube channel in the description below. And here's the 4th and final cast for the Chicago bean. It really is nerve-wracking opening up these sand molds because all the hard work you do to these to find out that half the time they don't come out like you had hoped. Now, just like before, this one is decently good on the top. It's just going to require a little bit more sanding down to really get it smooth and shiny. But the concern is the bottom. So let's flip this over and scrape away the sand and see if this was a good cast. Surprise! It is. Oh wait, it's not a surprise. You guys saw the beginning. I showed you this was a good cast. And now I'm going to clean the area and open up my sand molds that I have for the coins. So I cut the bean away from the gates and now it's time to sand it down. I'm actually going to start off with 80 grit sandpaper using my lathe. Never thought I'd be using my lathe to sand anything, actually. But it comes in handy. You just have to have a jaw chuck, which I have here. I progressed through the grit from 800 all the way to 2000 before I used the mother's aluminum polish that I have showing here. I wiped this on with my fingers and rubbed it in, and I actually did a second coat of this using my buffer, and it came out really good. So that is it for today's video. You guys now get to experience the things that us metal casters have to deal with. It never is just that easy. Well, unless you make coins. They're pretty simple to make. So guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, make sure to smash that like button and comment below and let me know what you think. And of course, as always, stay tuned for next week's video.